everyone, welcome back to the Call to Mothering vlog. The other day I had someone criticize me on Facebook for not placing what she considered several key commas in one of the articles that I had written. Now mind you, these are commas that even experts can't agree on how to always use. But she had told me that she hoped a homeschool mom would know better. And you know, she was really snarky about it and kind of rude, but she was a stranger on the internet. But what if we do if it's a family member or a friend, perhaps, that disagrees with our choice to homeschool or says that we are educating our children incorrectly, we're not following the model that they would, that's either accepted by many people or it's just something that they don't agree with. What do we do when someone pushes back on our choice to homeschool? I think we need to keep in mind, first of all, that while academics are important, they're not the most important thing, even in our homeschools. There are so many things that we can teach our children, and we can't possibly teach them everything. Even in as a classroom in a public or a private school, the teacher cannot teach all of her students every single thing about that particular subject. There are time constraints, there are different factors or different things that go on in the classroom that make that impossible for her to teach every single thing that she might even want the students to know. So in our homeschools, we're not able to teach everything about every single subject. And the goal isn't to even stuff our kids' heads full of knowledge. Our goal is to help them understand something, to help them have a good grasp of knowledge, and also to prepare them for the world and prepare them to be able to talk about things intelligently and to think critically. So our main focus shouldn't necessarily be on the perfection of writing mechanics or grammar. While those things can be important, writing is super important, knowing how to read is important, and knowing how to compute is also important. But our kids can know all of these things and they might do really, really well in some areas. But if they don't have the ability to think critically about something and they don't have the ability to articulate what they believe or articulate their point that they want to get across in an essay, then all of those things don't really make a difference. The same thing with history. If we teach all our kids all of the dates of key events and the names of all of the historical figures throughout time, if they have a really good grasp on those things, but they don't understand how one event connects to the other throughout all of history, and they don't know God, who has orchestrated history and who is behind the scenes of every single historical event, then there's really no point to teaching them those things. They could be brilliant at math, and if they don't know the God who created the world and who created order, who is the mastermind behind all of our mathematical formulas and the laws of the universe, again, it doesn't really make a difference. Another thing to keep in mind when we get pushed back about homeschooling or if we're criticized is that our children learn at different paces, and no two children learn exactly the same way at exactly the same time. That's true whether you homeschool or whether your children are in a traditional school setting. Children are as different as there are people. They all have different interests and different abilities and talents, and they all progress at different paces, and they all hit milestones at different times. So if you are teaching a concept to one of your children and they just aren't getting it, they may not be ready for it yet, or it's just something that you'll have to keep going over with them time and time and time again before they really grasp it. My son struggled for a while with the concept of borrowing in subtraction, and it was something that we needed to go over a lot, and it took a lot of years before he finally understood it. And right now my daughter is working on spelling and writing sentences and getting her thoughts down on paper. But frequently she doesn't punctuate her sentences, and she will not capitalize the beginning of her sentences either. But I don't get bent out of shape about those things. I try to focus on what she is doing well and what she is progressing on. And that's really key. You need to focus on what your kids are making progress in, and then you'll be less likely to compare them to somebody else. And you'll be less likely to compare your homeschool to someone else's homeschool or the public school style classroom. And finally, you want to remember that your relationship with your kids is more important than their academics. You don't ever want the academics to take priority over the relationship that you have with them. And they could be really, really good at placing all the commas in the right places and having really good grammar, and they can be great mathematicians and know all their history, dates, and all their facts. But if you have a poor relationship with them, then it's not going to matter very much. The most important thing to keep in mind when you're homeschooling is to foster that open and close relationship with your children. You're with them day in and day out, and you're going to have those times where you're going to butt heads, you're going to be frustrated with them, and they're going to be frustrated with you. And sometimes it seems like those hardships aren't really worth it, because it seems like you are pulling apart from each other. It seems like you are doing more harm to the relationship than you are good. But in fact, the opposite is happening. When you're learning to work out those differences with your children, and they're learning to work out those differences between themselves as siblings, it creates more of an understanding between all of you. And it also helps to sanctify all of you. The more you learn how to work out those differences and meet those challenges with a great attitude and learn how to depend on God, that is what makes a strong, healthy family. And you have the opportunity when you homeschool to have lots and lots of time with your children that can also be quality time. And you need that, and you need lots of time to equal quality time. So your relationship with your children is so much more important than academics. It is the tool that enables you to speak into their lives, and you need to be that, and your voice needs to be the loudest in a sea of voices that clamor for their attention, for their hearts and their minds. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel and also ring the notification bell to be notified when new videos are posted. I'll see you next time.